Welcome back. We are very honored to have our guest here today. He's one of our favorites, and honestly, we're kind of fangirling like crazy over here. So, as always, we start with our standard questions. So, who you, what's do?
Well, my name is Jim Beaver, and I'm an actor. So they tell me.
All right, and why?
Well, why? Oh, there's more than one why. There's the fact that I don't know how to do anything else. Um, that's a big part of it. There's the fact that I fell into it and I love it, and there's the fact that um, I get a feeling from it that I'm doing my little tiny part to help make the world a little better place, if by nothing else than just being um, bringing a little entertainment into people's lives. So,
Anytime you
and
can make a
occasionally
place.
maybe a little enlightenment.
So lockdown has given people a lot of free time. Is there anything you've been working on that you'd like to tell our audience about today?
Well, obviously it's a little difficult to do any acting these days because productions are all shut down all around the world. But um, so I've been trying to dedicate as much time as I can to writing, and because it's one of the few jobs you can do completely by yourself. Um, I've got I've actually got three books I'm working on at the same time, and um, I've been trying to put a fair amount of effort into at least two of those. So I'm writing a book that I've been working on for many years, um, a biography of the first television Superman, George Reeves,
Oh yeah.
um, and and I'm also I just started making some notes for an autobiography.
Hmm.
Um, I don't quite know why anybody would want to read that, but I do have a lot of stories that I've picked up over the years, and thought, well, it might be fun to share those. If nothing else, share them with my family. So, but I've just barely cracked the beginning of that process. But this other book I've been working on for many, many, many years. It's long before you were alive.
Uh, d- so you said that you've been working on the 50s TV Superman George Reeves biography. When it comes to writing as a whole, does biographical of your interest? And if so, why?
I'm sorry you cut out there a little bit.
I can just
Uh,
blame them for this.
yeah, it's just a little bit of bad reception. Try it again.
When it comes to writing as a whole, would you say that biographical literature takes a lot of your interest? And if so, why?
Um, yeah, in some ways it does. I've um, I've been I've certainly been really interested in the lives of people connected to the film industry. My first book was a book on the actor John Garfield. I've written hundreds of actor and other occupation biographies on IMDb. Um, it's that stuff is more kind of hobby stuff, but uh, I'm not sure I can explain why I enjoy it so much. It just always intrigues me to find out the stories behind the familiar faces uh, in this business, and so I've written a fair amount. Uh, Not so much because I like the writing, but because I like the research. I like finding the stuff out. And then once I've found it out, well, I might as well share it with other people who might be interested. So um, it's, I don't have a real good explanation for that, but I do really enjoy it. and I dabble in it whenever whenever I've got enough free time from work, which right now I've got a lot of.
It's very noble as a whole. What brought
I don't
your
know about
attention?
that,
What brought your attention specifically to George Reeves?
well, I'm a baby boomer, if you haven't guessed, and it is hard to underestimate the effect that he and his show had on kids of my generation. It was certainly the special effects weren't up to it, but it was it, Luke Skywalker had nothing on George Reeves as Superman in terms of popularity, and the it was just something that stuck with me as a kid. And of course, his death was considered somewhat mysterious. It's still considered mysterious to some people, not so much to me. But and so there was always a kind of wow, how did that happen, and why, and that drew my interest. And then as I got interested as an adult in answering that question, I just found a really interesting story to tell. And like I said, it's to me, it's very compelling to know how people who we know and recognize from popular culture, how they got from being a nobody little kid to this position of fame or acclaim. And I never intended to spend my entire life on this particular topic, but I also never expected to have a career of my own acting, and that's gotten in the way a lot. But fortunately or unfortunately, I've got a lot of spare time now, and I'm really piling on the work as much as I can.
I suppose in terms of jotting down the story of one's life, especially if you've been specializing in mostly actors and those in the acting profession, it'd probably be inspirational enough to tell a story of somebody rising to become a prominent actor, but much less writing the story of somebody rising to become an actor as Superman.
Yeah,
that's probably going to be the height, really.
Well, you would think, and that's why his apparent suicide was such a big question for people of my generation, and still, I mean, it's there's still a lot of people puzzling over that, and as as a kid, you wondered, well, there's a tendency to oversimplify things. And I know a lot of kids thought, man, I wouldn't kill myself if they let me play Superman. But life is always a lot more complex than 8-year-olds think it is.
True. So switching topics a little bit, I did my research, and it appears that you have done quite a bit of Shakespeare. I have done some as well, so I got to ask, what was your favorite character to play?
My favorite character to play was probably Macduff in the Scottish play.
Thank you for referring to it properly. Don't need the show to get cursed.
Yeah. I've done that show twice, and I've been hurt both times I did it, and I got really hurt on a Friday the 13th performance. So yeah, I'm careful about the superstition. I'm not a superstitious person, but I'm careful about that one. At any rate,
it kind of establishes a pattern there.
yeah. Macduff was wasn't the most uh, exciting character one could play, but it's a good part in that play. And uh, and I, I was younger then, and I really liked the sword fights. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could lift my arm long enough to do one now, but it's I'm in love with the language. I haven't done, now that I think about it, I haven't done one in a full production in about 40 years. But I did a lot before that. The opportunities to do Shakespeare out here in LA, there are a fair number of opportunities, but it's really hard to squeeze in the time to do a production when those productions rarely pay enough to help you make the rent. And I would love to do some more. I did 4 or 5 in college, and then I did 5 seasons with the Dallas Shakespeare Festival, and got quite a number under my belt there. And then I had that tour of the Scottish play, and that's been it for a long time. So I got so hungry for it. Recently, I took a class not long ago, just to get back into the language and feel the language again, and perform some scenes. And then a week or so ago, I just got tired of waiting for an opportunity to do some, and I posted 2 or 3 monologues on YouTube, just so I could feel like I was touching base with the Bard. So
We'll definitely see.
I love it. I really do. I'm sorry. Say that again.
We're gonna see if we can put some links in the description for that, because I think I and others would definitely want to see that.
Well, it's, for better or worse, it's on Facebook, on YouTube. So,
out of a lot of Shakespeare, is there any particular character that you'd like to play?
oh yeah, I've aged out of a lot of the parts.
Some of the best ones are in the elder characters.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm at a good age for playing Lear. I'm old enough to understand it a little bit, and I'm young enough to still carry it off. I'd love to do Richard III. I'm too old for that too, but it's maybe not. It wouldn't be quite as big a deal to play him at my age as it would, to try and play Hamlet at this age. And as I started looking around for more senior parts, I'd really like to do Claudius in Hamlet, just because it's besides the fact that it's a good part, it would be an opportunity to be in that play, which I think it's the greatest play ever written. So
it's kind of the big one of the Shakespeare mythos.
I'm sorry?
It's kind of the big one of the Shakespeare mythos.
Yeah. I don't know that I've got the energy for the 5-hour uncut version, but anybody wants to offer me this stuff, I will take it under very serious consideration.
Actually, the last one I was in, and probably the role I enjoyed most, was I was previously in The Tempest, and I played the character of Caliban, the monster. And
yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that one, and to this day, my parents still sometimes refer to me as Monster because of all the times that I've called that in the play. But personally, I think you might make a good Prospero.
Yeah, that could be fun. I mean, yeah. Caliban's a hoot.
Yeah.
History and Madness. Uh, I,
the Stefano and Tranquilo, like that was
yeah,
like the main fun of that one was definitely just bouncing off of my castmates there.
yeah, yeah. I bet that was great. I did the Tempest at the Dallas Shakespeare Festival, and I didn't. I was one of the Mariners. Didn't have much to do, but in fact, I think they let us go home after the first scene. Uh, that's how much I had to do in that show. Uh, but yeah, Prospero would be great. Uh, I learned a trick from William Rorick, who played Prospero in our production. We were doing it at in an amphitheater in Dallas, and we had huge crowds coming to see the show. It was outdoors, and Bill had a trick for which worked really well for Prospero, who's sort of a magician. Um, he he glued sequins to the top of his eyelids so that every time he blinked, his eyes would flash. Uh, Now,
Okay.
it wouldn't work very well. It wouldn't work very well on camera with close-ups, but with an audience of 4,000 people sitting out there in some distance, to see Prospero's eyes just kind of flash like that was really cool.
Okay,
So if I ever get a chance to do Prospero, I'm going to try that.
awesome. And also, like you said, you played the Mariner. Like with Tempest, that's also when I learned that no part is too small because I had to we had like A and B cast separate things. Like an A cast as Caliban, and then the B cast I played the Mariner in the front end, and I played Sycorax the Witch in one of the later parts.
Uh-huh.
And like it was a minor part. I didn't even speak, but there was just some sort of power with having to dress up as a witch and not an evil pregnant witch on stage and still wield a whole bunch of power.
Yeah.
Like, there's no part too small if you make of it.
There's nothing like being in a good production of Shakespeare. I'll tell you. I hunger for it.
Yeah. Let's see. So moving on. So you've been in the business for, well, more than a minute. What do you feel has changed for the better and for the worst overall since you've become a professional performer?
Well, when I was starting out, both film and theater were real hotbeds of serious art. I'm one of those who believes that the mid '70s were one of the high points of the film industry in terms of artistic quality, and theater was primarily either, well, let's say Broadway was either great musicals or it was great dramas. And what's happened in the ensuing years is that both those arenas have become more and more about sort of thrill ride kinds of stories. Movies have become so overwhelmed by superheroes and flashy special effects pictures, and there's been a big attempt to bring some of that to Broadway, to the point where the budgets of 25 serious dramas get sunk into one production of Spider-Man or King Kong, or where the stage seems mainly trying to duplicate the special effects of movies. I don't find that as compelling viewing as I do a good production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, for example. Um, what has also changed though is that when I was starting out, television was kind of, for the most part, kind of predictable. There were uh, kind of formula dramas and formula comedies, and nowadays television has become the place to look for serious drama, to look for cutting edge comedy. Those things are have kind of transmuted themselves from one venue to the other, and so things are they're still wonderful places to do powerful dramatic stories, but they're mainly on television now because people who make movies are mostly interested in making money from big screen effects, and Broadway has become much more about high profile musicals uh, than it used to be. Um, there are still great dramas on Broadway, but I think the percentage has dropped pretty precipitously. So um, I don't know if it makes me old school or what, but I much prefer comedy or drama that makes me think, that has a compelling view of the world, uh, uh, special effects driven excitement. That stuff's fun too, but it seems to me like we're a little over full with it nowadays.
So would you say that at this point, the stage productions are trying to emulate the production values of the movies, while TV shows are like variety and drama?
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think. I mean, not entirely. I mean, I go to shows on Broadway as often as I can, and I see a lot of good stuff. But um, I also see that the big successes there are largely more, they're a little closer to theme parks than they are to Broadway plays, in my estimation. But, I'm an old coot. What do I know?
I believe there's still some value in this. Like, if you're going to see a stage production, then you still want to see some like good dramatic writing, especially since people have to be even more expressive on stage than they would on camera.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
if somebody's sitting at the back of the room, they're not going to see your minute eye movements, no matter like what you have. You gotta actually express. You gotta emote.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Would you ever be interested in being a series regular on a 1 hour show again?
oh yeah, oh sure. It's um, yeah, I'd be delighted. It's if it's a good show. Um, I have been I've been a regular on some really good shows, and I've been a guest on some not so great shows where I can I can see that the regulars are not necessarily all that happy with what they're doing. They're happy to have a job and happy to have a regular paycheck, but um, I think it would be, there are certain kinds of shows, the kinds that are driven primarily by formula, uh, that don't have uh, a really strong message that they want to convey to the world. They're just kind of, uh, here's this week's adventure of these guys doing this thing. And next week will be exactly like that, except it'll be different names and different faces. Uh, I would think that that would get pretty boring after a while. And some people I've talked to have indicated that, yeah, it does get pretty boring after a while. And I suspect that a lot of actors do that stuff mainly for steady paycheck, because very few of us get to pick what we do. The fact that I've done some of the really the best drama shows ever produced wasn't because I said, well, this, I want to do this one and not that one. It's been because they decided they wanted me, and I didn't have much choice in whether they wanted me. It's not like I get a list of 10 shows and I pick one. So I've been really fortunate, both because the material's been so good, but also because it was work that I wanted to do. And I was on Deadwood for 3 years. I would have been very happy to do Deadwood for the rest of my life. If you put me on, CSI Des Moines, I would probably go out of my mind after a couple of years. So, not that it would necessarily be a bad show, but that kind of show runs on formula. It runs on this setup happens and this response happens, and people watch it almost more for the familiarity than they do for the story, and because the stories tend to run together, and that's it still beats putting fenders on Chevys, but it's not horrible work at all, but there are levels of acting jobs, and I've been lucky to do some that I felt were at the top level. So just in terms of the quality of the material I was asked to do.
All right. Enough of the heavy-handed stuff. Just moving on to a nice, silly question now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like one of the. It's a little bit fangirly, but FMK Sam Dean Cass.
Oh, jeez.
I told you that was a crass one.
No, yeah.
You're talking about
the
Preacher's
Kid
Kid.
over here as director.
Yeah, that. Let me see. How would my preacher father answer that?
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to take the easy way out and say that I would be equally inclined or disinclined for all three choices for all three people. Emphasis on the disinclined. They all three make great buddies. That's as far as I want to take it.
Okay. Now, with that horrible question out of the way, another horrible question from the cackling fiend over here. Getting into reality, FMK, Jared, Jensen, and Misha.
Didn't we just do that?
Oh,
Look at the character.
Are their characters the same as their?
Oh, okay. Well,
like difference between character and actor.
I'm gonna have to even more seriously answer the same way. Yeah, I would be equally disinclined for any of those options for any of them.
Show's director, everybody.
Yeah, often heard, rarely seen.
All right, well, with that part of the train wreck out of the way, I really think this is but if you want to call Jason and Jared a couple of agents for us for an interview in their own town, nonetheless, then feel free.
Okay.
Well, this has been Jim Beaver, everybody. For me, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and from the Cackling Fiend over here, thank you.
Sweet. Thanks.
Well, it's been my pleasure, you guys. You guys take care,
Thank you
okay?
for coming on, and we'll be right back.